ES Audio. From the Evening Standard in London, I'm Rachel Abbott, and this is The Leader. Today we're giving you some bonus content taken from our business show, How to Be a CEO. An opportunity to hear from the most powerful people behind some of the world's biggest brands. This is a cut-down version of the full episode. To hear the full thing, hit the link in the show notes. Find a new episode of How to Be a CEO every Monday morning, and why not give it a rate and follow whilst you're there? Now, let's begin.
Before the year 2006, direct-to-consumer genetics testing wasn't something that many of us would have ever even thought of, never mind used. Cut to today, however, millions of people worldwide have taken at-home tests and the industry is now worth billions. And there was one company in particular that was at the forefront of this new idea, 23andMe.
I was investing in healthcare companies and I was working in the investment business for about 10 years. And I became increasingly more and more unhappy and frustrated with the world I was investing in. And mostly because I felt like the healthcare world and the biotech world as it wasn't really investing in me being healthier.
From the Evening Standard, I'm Rochelle Travers, and this is How to Be a CEO with Anne Wojcicki, co-founder and CEO of 23andMe.
And so I became increasingly more frustrated, and I wanted to do something where I felt like you could really, change that course, like do something again that was going to have a long-term, benefit for individuals.
To put it mildly, Anne is a big deal, pioneering in her field, a well-earned spot on the Forbes Power Women list, and according to reports, a billionaire. On paper, at least. 23andMe was the first company to begin offering autosomal DNA testing for ancestry, which many companies now use globally. Their tests also provide personalised health insights for individuals. Anne co-founded the company 16 years ago with Linda Avey and Paul Cosenza. All three were united in the aim of using genetic information for good and for giving people direct access to their medical data.
I was at a conference, the TED conference, and I had two colleagues that I had known from the research space and ran to them and talked about the idea of how you could really leverage genetic information to make a difference. And they were focused on actually, enabling individuals to potentially learn about their ancestry. And we had sort of this moment of everyone coming together and kind of realizing we could create a crowdsourced platform where people are going to learn about their genome and then also be able to opt in and contribute to research. And so if there wasn't a specific aha moment, it was probably right then where we realized like we could all team up and create something. And I think one thing I always think about for entrepreneurs is that finding partners and finding other co-founders in those early days is, for me at least, it was really key because there's so much to do in those early days. It's almost overwhelming about what you yourself can handle. And so having two co-founders was really incredibly helpful for getting the ideas off the ground. But I think there was sort of the slow roll of being really frustrated with the entire industry. And then when I met people who frankly brought other skill sets and had overlapping ideas, but in different ways, there was sort of an explosion of like, wow, we could actually really do this. And we're all going to bring something unique and valuable to the table, and we'll be able to get this off the ground.
And how do you even start when it comes to getting such a revolutionary idea set into motion?
It is hard. I think back those early days, like you start with nothing and you have to create. So, we had a first office in an empty apartment. And, there was a lot of that first 9 months or so of almost just experimenting, like seeing, does this even work? One of the earliest things for us to figure out is like, does it work? Like, can I actually get a genetic test? Can I spit in the tube, extract the DNA? And then do I actually, like, are the results meaningful? Like, does it work? And I remember the first time where there was sort of 5 or 6 of us and sitting on the floor looking at the screen and saw it was a mother and a daughter genome and saw like, wow, like we can tell, like the daughter has half the mom's DNA. Like it was mind blowing. Like, wow, this actually really works. And that was one of the first moments where I think we realized that this could be a product and that scientifically it is working. And, you have the right kind of quality, like we can keep building from here. So every step of the way, you're kind of keep thinking about, is this actually going to work?
Many people know tech and especially biotech are still to this day male-dominated fields. What was it like back at the start of your journey?
I get the gender question a lot, and I have to say I worked in, a pretty much male dominated industry. And, I had one office where, there was like 99% men and me. So in some ways, like it was just the norm. Like it was nothing, I don't know. It was always the outlier. So it wasn't anything different. So, I've always kind of not focused on the obstacles, but really what was the opportunity. And for me, what it was is like, we were able to sort of see this opportunity that you could empower individuals, and you could take something that was, obviously a cutting edge technology and deep in science, and we're going to popularize this and make this accessible to everybody. So, in some ways, like there's always challenges, and there's moments, every so often there's moments where you're like, wow, like I'm really, I'm the outsider, or like, being in a male dominated world will have, will rear its head. But, for the most part, I focus on the opportunities, and I focus on, the potential, and keep pushing forward.
What's been the greatest lesson you've learned as a CEO?
Real-time feedback and being able to communicate very directly and making sure that people are communicating directly with me. Like the reality is, when any position of leadership, whether it's me or my whole management team, you need all the right information to be able to make decisions. And so making sure that there's a very transparent culture, and that people are giving me real-time feedback and I'm giving them real-time feedback, I think allows for the best types of decision making. So I would say the main ethos for me is like radical transparency with individuals, and being really direct and honest.
Let's go to a quick ad break. In the spirit of instant feedback, in the meantime, why not rate, review, and subscribe to How to Be a CEO? Have you ever had a moment where you've actually sat back and took stock of just what you've achieved? 23andMe is a household name, and you're one of the most powerful CEOs in the world. What's that like to process?
That's why I don't read my press. I think as soon as you start looking at yourself in some ways not as a startup, I think you lose some of your momentum. And I think I'm really religious. Like I don't read my press, and I don't listen to myself in some ways, just because you want to keep those blinders on. I want to know the feedback, and I leverage my communications team to make sure I get that feedback. But I think it's really important for you to always sort of maintain that kind of scrappy, Jeff Bezos will always say it's day one. You can't rest on your laurels of like, oh, I'm so big and I have this brand. So I think about things that I'm very proud of. Like I'm incredibly proud of my marketing team for actually establishing us as a brand. But I think it's still very early days of this industry and the company. And certainly never want to just sit back and say like, oh, look at what we've done, but rather very much looking forward to saying it's like, look, the majority of people today still don't have access to genetic testing that is part of their care. And there's a huge opportunity to drive that forward. So most people are not still benefiting from the human genome, and that's really where we are focused.
And finally, what's your advice to anyone wanting to be like you and become a CEO?
Look, I think there's nothing more fun than starting a company. And I never think about being a CEO just because you want to be a CEO. Like I think about what's fun about entrepreneurship is that you're solving a problem. And so if you can see a problem that no one else can see, and you have a solution for it, like it's super fun to solve a problem. Like it's just, I look around the whole world. I mean, even really small things. Like, I was trying to figure out how you get soup out of a jar that's frozen the other day. And someone emailed, they're like, oh, there's like a solution that was on Shark Tank. Like that's super fun. Like it's fun to see like everyday kind of problems and come up with a solution. And the beauty of the world is that we all see different types of problems. And my focus, like my passion ever since I was little, was really always about healthcare and how you can be healthier. And I was fascinated as a child by genes and environment. Like, what do you mean you have genes and there's an environment that you can change? So let me figure out how I can optimize how I live so I can live the optimal, healthy life. For anybody who wants to be an entrepreneur, look around the world and see what are the problems that you are uniquely seeing. And then you figure out the solution for that. And it's just it's incredibly fun to go on that journey.
That was Anne Wojcicki, co-founder and CEO of 23andMe. For more business news, interviews, and analysis, check out the Evening Standard newspaper or go to standard.co.uk/business. New episodes of How to Be a CEO drop first thing every Monday morning. We'll see you next time.